Sometimes you just need to take the slips out and bowl defensively. And you also need to be careful with your computer's defense as well. If you need a VPN, go Nord. NordVPN.com/Kimber to get a 2-year contract with a discount, plus 4 extra months and gifts in some markets. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the show notes. So put in some dot balls and turn them into maidens via NordVPN.com/Kimber.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the scoreboard. Well, that was certainly one-sided in the end. I mean, Virat Kohli came out and smoked the ball like his ass was on fire, but then it did get doused a little bit. And I know we're all on Virat intent watch, so every flick or play and miss or shot or, I know, just demolition of Mitchell Starc is put under a telescope. But I think he did slow down a little bit. And also KKR bowled well. What is interesting is that Green and Maxwell scored quicker than he did, and he seemed to second chair those partnerships. However, the slow ball from KKR played a huge part. So did Anakul Roy, who had a great low usage day that protects your figures. But the best news, I think, for KKR has to be that Andre Russell got a good bowling day in at the exact same time their two main spinners got hit. KKR hit the halfway point way in front, according to me, but the win predictors didn't actually seem to suggest that was the case. But a few sixes in and the game was pretty much theirs. But what was weirder was that it was Sunil Narine who actually stayed in. He must have felt so weird actually batting for more than 15 minutes. I'm not sure if he got a nosebleed from that. But because he was in for that amount of time, he essentially set the entire game up. Even if Salt and Venki did some nice slap towards the middle as well, or the start in the middle as well. But all of KKR's batting was made a lot easier by the fact that RCB were being consciously indifferent to the slow ball. I can't really explain that, but I can explain other things that went on in this game. So let's get to the main scoreboard part of the show. If this is the first time you've been here, thank you. Please like and subscribe, do all those things. But also, if you're desperate to ask a question, the best way to ask a question, as always, is via super chats. But the more comments, the merrier, and I'll find things if they tickle me. I suppose most people don't find things if they tickle them, but you know what I mean. All right, so let's get on with the scoreboard. So this is Sunil Narine's batting average as an opener in the IPL from Crickmetric. So in 2017 to 2019, you'd see he was averaging around 22. I remember having a conversation with some other cricket writers when this first started, and they were saying, well, he's only going to average 18. And I was like, 18's a win, because he isn't going to average 18 down the order, right? And if you can average 18 at a strike rate of 150 or 155, that's a massive win. The problem being is that it went from 22 down to 5, which, you know, he's a limited player. And there are probably going to be times when I think a lot of this after 2019 was just people getting used to bowling to him and understanding him a little bit more. You know, I can't remember if I was at the game. No, I don't think I was at the game in the Big Bash where Aaron Finch got him to open the batting. But for a long time, I remember analysts would contact me going, what do we do? Like, he wasn't a normal batter and he wasn't playing, you know, shots that were easy to scheme against. He also hadn't faced that many balls. So from a data perspective, it wasn't quite as easy. All those sorts of things where, you know, I remember a coach contacting me and just going, you know, what should we try here? What's the best option? He shocked people, and then he stopped shocking people, and he completely stopped making runs altogether after that. This is innings batted by position in the IPL since the start of 2020. So you can see today was the 8th time he's opened. There was that whole period where they were trying him as a number 4, number 5. The thought process there was that he prefers spin to pace. So if you put him in that middle area, he could come out and hit the spinners. The issue for him is he has a lot more trouble doing that when the fielders are out on the rope. And so I think we saw him struggle a little bit with that. You can even see he dropped all the way back down to number 9 a little bit here as well. And number 8 is the main position. But you see Kolkata have kind of tried him everywhere. And up until recently, I would say that he was retraining himself as a middle order player, but that wasn't working. And if you haven't seen it, we've done whole videos on Sunil Narine, his batting, because it is fascinating of, the way he changed his game. And, originally he taught himself how to hit sixes rather than fours. And he then took that, and then with Aaron Finch sort of throwing him into the top of the order to becoming an opening batter. So he starts really in this position and even lower at times, works his way into like a handy player, probably around number 8, ends up being this game-changing opener, and then ends up in the middle. It's fascinating to watch the way that he's gone. So this is RCB's bowling in the power play. So in 2023, I think on my ratings, I might have had them as the best power play bowling team of last season. If not, they were certainly in the conversation. That's my memory of them. You have to go back to the IPL maps to check. But 7.79 with regular wickets was really quite exceptional. So far in 2024, they're going at over 10 runs and over. That's not as good. It really is it's a big step back. Small sample size so far, but they don't look like the same kind of bowling team that they did before. You don't want to put too much into it because it is a small sample size, and also that was a good pitch to bat on. We saw Faf and Virat and Cameron Green all score quite quickly in the power play, so when the ball was hard on that wicket, he could certainly score quite fast. But this is something that is worth watching to see what happens with Bangalore going ahead. And this is their bowlers' economy rates today. So you can see Siraj at 15s and Azari Joseph at 17. The interesting thing about Azari Joseph is he bowled fast. And I have seen it. There was it must have been a T20 or a one day or I covered where he bowled pretty fast, where I was commentating. It must have been against England, I suppose. And occasionally he does get up to that 150, plus, which is gas. Like that's proper speed. But we've also seen him, he's become very over-reliant on that short ball, and I'm not sure it's working particularly well for him as well. Dial got hit. Degar, I thought, bowled quite well, and Green came on at the end. But Vaishak, I think, is interesting here just because they put up a graphic, and I didn't see the final number, but when they put up the graphic, it was about 13th over, I want to say, of the second innings. And at that stage, Kolkata had bowled, their seamers had bowled 51% slower balls, and RCB had bowled 24%. So half the amount of slower balls. I have no numbers to back this up, but based on my eye test, Vaishak was bowling more slower balls than the rest of his bowlers put together. And it was really noticeable early on that KKR just realised that was the right pitch. Now, usually what happens is, and I was thinking this during the game, I thought RCB had underscored, but I also thought it may not have been the biggest deal in the world because the RCB bowlers would have seen that Kolkata went with slower balls. So my theory was that they would come out and bowl slower balls even earlier on, maybe even more slower ball. You look at Joseph, probably not a great slower ball bowler. Neither of these guys you probably put in that. Not that they can't bowl them either. So it does mean that you've got 3 bowlers who perhaps on wickets where you do need to just roll your fingers over or try something different are not as suited. Siraj's slow ball is okay, but I'm not sure if it's certainly not his main skill, right? That's something worth noting to look ahead. And if you have a look, their four-seamer is Green, and he's also not, perfectly set up to do the slow ball. So I'm not saying it lost them the game because the power play you might not have bowled that many early on anyway. So perhaps it's more to do with that. And they certainly could have made more runs, as we'll get to in a moment. But the eye test of this one for me was, like I sent a message to Sean at one stage going, are they bowling any slower balls? And it's just, this is one of those games as an analyst where at the halfway point I would have loved, and my friend Freddie is the analyst, so I won't throw him under the pump, but it's the sort of game I would have run up to the captain and just be like, you can't bowl enough slower balls. Like the minute it looks like pace on is not working, just go all in with the slower balls. Now, it's a very big chance that Freddie actually told them that, and it didn't happen. And it might just be the kind of bowlers they have, but either way, not ideal. So that was the second innings, of course. Let's just have a look at the first innings. So I mentioned this briefly in the intro, but you can see here Stark went for runs again. Expensive runs. And I mean expensive runs in every single way because they paid a lot of money for these runs at the moment. Anyway, I actually thought he came back well with his slower balls later on and maybe even helped, maybe not set the tone, but allowed for Harshit to go with a similar thing. Harshit's gone for almost 10 runs and over here. I actually really like the way he bowled. Again, I like the energy he has on the ball. I like the way he thinks things through. He looks very calm to me. So I was really impressed with him. And we've already talked about Anakul Roy. You know, that sort of, what would you call it? I think I called it in the intro, sort of like low usage type bowler where, you know, you've got a good matchup with a couple of right-handers at the crease and you use them. Just trying to have a look who came in. Yeah, because they could have bowled him more. So maybe, because I was thinking Royat, but Royat wasn't in that long, was he? It's interesting that they didn't try him more. And maybe part of the reason is they didn't want to give away their frontline overs from their spinners, even if their spinners weren't doing particularly well today. And Andre Russell was doing well. But it is interesting to see, you know, 2 overs, none for 6, right? Was it none? Yeah, none for 6. I'm not against that, but the more interesting thing here is that one of their spinners went at 3 and over, the other 2 went at 10. I thought they played Narine and Chakravarti really well, and I think it's a very, very good sign that KKR are on with their 2 main spinners not bowling very well. And if you want to throw Stark in there as well. So I just did a podcast with Bayram where we talked about how well, you know, that front 3 bowling is, and then it sort of drops off a little bit. There's 2 things here. Either A, you know, Harshit, Russell and Roy do well enough that they can supplement the other guys all the way through the season. I find that kind of unlikely, but it's possible. Or what they've done is here, with their 3 main bowlers have been probably the 3 worst bowlers, and they've actually ended up with a win, which is a huge bonus, right? And the batting played a part in this, but certainly the bowlers played a part. And so this is Virat Kohli versus left arm orthodox on the Cricinfo scorecard. You can see here. So 114. So they could have. That's why I was saying before. I think they could have used more of him, but that's neither here nor there. But that first over, you know, I really liked the way he went about it. This was a really, really good over at a time that, you know, they were 46 for 1. They were flying. You know, Virat looked incredible. Green was obviously going to smash the ball everywhere. The power plays on. Fantastic over. Interesting, again, that we don't see his second over is the 7th. And then not another over afterwards. I think you could certainly make the question, or certainly ask the question of, did they make a mistake at least not giving him 1 more? But perhaps, you know, the 10 overs of spin was more than enough. The seam bowlers were pulling it back and everything else. But I thought this was really, really good cricket all the way through. He had good matchups, but even so. And this is Andre Russell's second over today. So there was a couple of slow balls here. You can see this very, very slow one up here. There was good, fast back of the length balls. I think both of these were attempted pull shots. It's a really, really good, and here you go. Here's another off-pace ball as well, which ended up in a bye, sadly. This is a really good over, considering Kohli was well and truly set at this stage, and Maxwell was sent out to smash the ball. I like when Andre Russell is bowling these overs well. I also think the better he bowls in the middle, the less you have to use him at the death, which I don't think particularly works, but teams keep trying anyway. So these are really good things. But of course, I'm sure everyone is just waiting for me to talk about Virat Kohli's strike rate. So this is his strike rate by phase compared to the other batters today. So you can see he's the red here, and he had a strike rate of 155 in the power play, which I'm interested in the fact that the other RCB batters went a lot faster than him. It didn't feel that way watching the game live. I suppose Cameron Green maybe played a part in that, and that was a little bit later in the power play. But you can see here, they drop back, and they go, the rest of the RCB batters actually strike at 71 between overs 7 and 11. That's really bad. There's no other way of talking about that. Oh, wait. But you can see here that Kohli is also less than a run a ball in that period. I think this is the period that kills him. If you wanted a feature on it, and I'm sure, towards the end of the season we'll do something, I think it is specifically here where he has his biggest issues, right? That inability to just score at a strike rate of 110, 115 in this period just allows the opposition to feel like they can sit on him for a little bit. It's that whole thing of England in the World T20 semi-final of being like, we think they will go back into that period, into that mode for that period. And then even when they start to score quicker, it's not going to be enough to make up for it, right? And you can see here that later on that they get a kick from everyone else. But these are new batters, right? And they're scoring quicker than the set batter again. That really bothers me because he's a set batter all the way through this innings. So that concerns me a little bit. His strike rate here is 171. So there's nothing wrong with the actual number. It's that, again, though, the guys at the other end are scoring at 181. I think he should be putting a little bit more pressure on the opposition there at that time. But this is actually, today, what caused him an issue. I don't have as much of an issue with him in general, because I've seen years where he scored at well over 2 runs a ball at the death. And I think he has that gear within him still and that ability to do that. I think today he was trying to hit boundaries and the slower balls got to him. You have to factor that in. We talked about that with Hardik Pandya in one of the other games, Aiden Markram, even Heinrich Klaassen, who only had a strike rate of 260 and, could have had a strike rate of 900. Sometimes those things happen towards the end. But this is the one that I think is the biggest issue. But also, just to go back here, nothing wrong with a strike rate of 155. But there's something about Kohli that makes it feel like he's flying when he's not flying, right? But this is how the opposition batted. So they went at 2 runs a ball in the power play. No one is expecting Kohli to be anywhere near that. 155, I would take that from him more often than not. Maybe 160 on occasion. This is fine from him on that kind of wicket. Their strike rate drops down to 150 in that period. Now, again, you've got players who've been sent out there to smash the ball. Venki was at second ball. Venki tried to heave the ball for 6 and hit it straight up in the air, right? That's never going to be Kohli's job. Where everyone should be okay with that. That should be something that we all accept. But you can't go down to less than a run a ball in this period. There's just no reason, and it happens too often, right? And you can see that Kolkata actually slowed down when the game was kind of the game was kind of won. But look how much they had broken that chase, right? It's a different way of chasing than Kohli does it, so we're not comparing it. But we're just having a look at all these things. And we come back here, and this is Kohli's strike rate by bowler today. He had a bit of trouble with the slower ball of Russell. I think that's fair. Left arm finger spinner really did, do a number on him. But these are the 3 best bowlers. And this comes back to the issue with leaving Kohli out of a World Cup team or slagging off Kohli. His ability to score off the best bowlers in the world is on this graphic, right? There aren't that many people who on the one day can take down Chakravarti, Narine and Stark, right? He's scoring at almost 2 runs a ball against Stark, 1.75 and 1.5 against these 3 bowlers. Now, run a ball here, way less than run a ball, and almost 3 runs and over against Russell, right? He's not ideal. But the movement is there. And I think, when I talked about it in the intro about that whole idea of watching the, what's This way of putting it, that like we're all on his intent. He hits a 6 and it looks so effortless. And then he hits another 6, but it's 4 or 5 overs later. Or he's flying out the back of the power play and then suddenly he's not even scoring at a run ball in the first 4 overs after the power play. It's that sort of stuff that this keeps happening. No one should, and no one does really, denies his talent. It's whether he can put himself into a position where he can impact games in the right way. This is a game that he's batted, the most balls, I would say. What did he face? 59 balls. He has faced in this game basically double the amount of balls of any other batter, right? But he hasn't had that kind of an impact, right? The player who had the most impact on this game is Sunil Narine, even though he didn't bowl particularly well. And then you would probably put, maybe Venki as the other player up there. And his strike rate, Venki has ended up with 166, and Kohli's has ended up with 144. And I want to mention that 144 specifically because he started in the power play with 155. So even though he played his way all the way through the rest of the innings, he didn't actually, this part of his innings didn't outscore this part of his innings, right? These are just questions. And we don't know what kind of T20 player he wants to be, or whether he thinks this was a good innings and he put himself in a position to win it. He's all fair. No one else scored over 33, although, Dinesh Karthik, I thought, played a blinder, and Glenn Maxwell was dropped 3 times in like 19 balls. And Cameron Green batted quite well, but those were, so he would probably look at that and go, we're 182 for 6. So we actually used all of our batting resources. So my job of staying in made sense. And they are going up against a very kamikaze style batting lineup, right? Like if you look at the Kolkata batting lineup, Salt Narine, Rinku Singh, Andre Russell, Ramandeep Singh, Mitchell Starc, these are all highly flammable, potentially quick scoring batters. And they are doing that on purpose to be able to do, to bat in a very different way than RCB. So Kohli might be able to justifiably say, well, our bowlers didn't bowl enough slow balls. I couldn't hit slow balls at the end. Why didn't we bowl more slow balls? I'm okay with all of that, right? But these are the questions that we have to ask, and we keep asking, and I think that's also fair. He's a fantastic. I still think at his best, he's certainly World Cup level. No, even now, I mean, in his older age and not quite at his peak and all those sorts of things. But what is he playing the right way that will fit with the Indian team? Can they fit him and Rohit in if one of them ends up defaulting to this kind of mode? Is there something they can do to just, speed up that little period? Dinesh Karthik is back. Yeah. This is his last season. I think he said that, hasn't he? So in 2022, he hit 2.2 runs per ball, which is ridiculous at the depth. I love that number. And this year, he's slightly above that. And we could see that was after an off year. This could be kind of the end for him, and he's thinking to himself, I'm on my way out. But he's seeing the ball beautifully. I really liked his little knock. I thought it was fantastic. That is it for the scoreboard part of the show. I need to remove the scoreboard, don't I? Let us take a quick break while I go through and see. I can see there's a couple of super chats in here as well, but also some other comments from everything else. So we'll have a quick break here on the scoreboard. Remember, like, subscribe, put more comments in, and I'll see what you've said in the comments, and I'll see if there's any questions in there to answer. I am Jared Kimber, and this is a scoreboard. We'll be doing what we did. We're doing Wednesdays, Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays for the scoreboard so far. So, come on over.
If you need your pitch changed, well, NordVPN can doctor any surface to a new location so that your IP address is set for you to win. Want to watch a game on a free stream in another hemisphere? Give NordVPN the ball. Or if you just want to watch a clip on social media that a cricket board won't allow, promote NordVPN to pinch hit. So if you need a VPN, go Nord. Use nordvpn.com/Kimber to get a 2-year contract with a discount, plus 4 extra months and gifts in some markets. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the show notes. Protect your computer like a bowler protects the boundaries in the death overs with nordvpn.com/Kimber today.
All right, welcome back. Got a few questions here. ABCD says, who has been the most influential analyst in cricket? And will Owen Morgan make a good coach if he was appointed by a franchise next season? Most influential analyst is probably Nathan Lehmann. He's written books and he's did the England team, and obviously they have played very differently to everyone else. Kolkata's analyst. He's been an analyst in Pakistan as well. I'm not sure if he's done any other leagues. I'm sure he has. Trying to remember if he also was the analyst in the ILT20, but I'm sure he's done lots of stuff. But more than all of that, or included with all of that, he's also the guy who co-founded CricViz, right? So I think he, by a long distance, I suppose Gaurav would be up there as well. Gaurav Sundararaman, who is at Sunrisers this year, partly because by being an analyst at Cricinfo, that was a huge, influential position. And Freddie Wild would be the third one, right? Again, CricViz, now with England, RCB today. I'm not sure if he does any of the franchises in other leagues. I'm sure he does, but I can't remember who he's worked for. And then Ben Jones, again, from CricViz. Those are probably the main ones. Then you've got people like myself and Dan Weston, Jimenez, trying to think of Prasanna. So there's a few other, very, very, very important ones. But, I don't know how to rank everyone, but I would certainly have Nathan Lehmann ahead of the rest of us. Will Owen Morgan make a good coach if he's appointed by franchise next season? I think my issue with Owen Morgan would be, how much does he want to be a coach? Does he have coaching instincts? Yes, I think that's fair. Coaching is very different to playing in that you generally have to do more work, less physical work, but more actual work. And so if you don't absolutely love it and want to be involved with it, it's not always as enjoyable. I think, and I think Owen Morgan will probably coach, but I'd be interested to see if he isn't just more into commentary. Which might suit his personality a little bit more. I don't know Owen, so it's not. I'm not an expert on those sorts of things, but I don't know if he is the sort of person who would want to be a coach. Thanks for the question, though. Mansahaj says, love the Cricket 8 watch-alongs. Hope they happen more often. Yeah, we're not doing them this weekend, but it's more a technical thing, where it's quite a setup. But yeah, they'll be back. Next weekend, we are definitely doing the Sunday double headers. And I think the weekend after, we will probably do Saturday and Sunday. This is all off the top of my head. But yes, we'll be doing heaps more. If you haven't caught one of the Cricket 8 watch-alongs, and big thanks to them for sponsoring us and partnering with us as well. What we basically do is we watch the games, but we're looking for analysis. We're looking at betting markets. We're looking at deeper information. So it's almost like, I would think, especially if you don't like the commentary, it's the ideal second screen. You'd be able to get all that information available to you, on things for fantasy cricket, for betting, for just being more of a cricket nerd, all the reasons that people are here as well, I suppose. So yes, we will do more of those. All hail Ashwin pitch blocking and hitting in the same innings. I wished I had a show yesterday just so I could talk about Ashwin's batting, because he came in and he took down, who was the spinner? Whoever the spinner was, he was facing. And I thought, it was Kuldeep. I loved the way he came down and used his feet and hit him over long on, which I do think is the place to hit left arm wrist spinners. And I sometimes feel like people are nervous about that. And it's like, that's exactly how you should hit a left arm wrist spinner. So I thought that was beautiful. But then Nortje came on and he just effortlessly slapped him away, which I thought was brilliant. And then I thought to myself, how unlikely is it he's going to play a shot like that? And didn't he play another one against Nortje? Like, I think, unless I'm misremembering anyway, but it was, my big thing was that Nortje's first over yesterday, I thought to myself, oh, okay, is it possible that that the man's back in town here and we're going to see another, big Nokia season. And then I'm watching, Ashwin smash him, and I'm starting to think to myself, are we going to see another one? He ended up going at 12 runs and over. Wow. So very, very fascinated to see how that goes. And just on that game, since you've talked about that as well, I thought Rian Parag obviously did very, very well. But again, it's one of those games where the Royals didn't have to go that much over the expected run total, and their bowling lineup completely stood up. And, Ashwin got hit for runs, didn't he? I'm just having a look at the scoreboard here. Ashwin got hit for runs, but we saw Chahal take wickets again. Avesh Khan coming up. It's a really, really interesting team from that point of view, because there's still a lot of flaws in that team. But so far it's working exactly the way they want it to, which is at least one player can get them runs. And again, I've talked about this a lot. I talked about this with KKR. I think any game that they can win, Rajasthan, where their top three, one of them doesn't make a 50, is absolutely huge. On the other side, I don't think Delhi are very good. So you should probably beat Delhi. Rahul says, what is it about slow balls that some bowlers bowl them better than others? When Siraj bowls it isn't as effective, while Cummins is so much better at it. Why are we suddenly thinking that Cummins has the greatest slower ball in the world? Literally, the first half of the World Cup, he was bowling slower balls and getting smoked everywhere. If Cummins was so good at them, he would have been bowling them for years, right? But there is a reason why Cummins is working at the moment. And I do think that is worth doing. So slow balls, there's a few different parts to slow ball. The first is, what is your slow ball, right? So most bowlers only have one that they trust, and probably a second one that they can bowl. Then you have that sort of Benny Howell, Adam Holyoke, Rajat Bhatia type bowler who can bowl 3 or 4. And you have a couple of other guys who might have 2. So Jay Dernbach had back of a hand slower ball and a cutter. Tom Curran, I think, has both as well. And Sam Curran now has both. But generally, they have one slower ball. So what's the problem with only having one slower ball? Well, once a batter starts lining up the way it's coming out of your hand, it's just a ball, right? So if you only have one slow ball and you're either bowling on pace or off pace, and they realize that when you bowl on pace, the ball's going to come to them this way, and when you bowl off pace, they just have to hold their position. So a lot of the problems with playing slow balls is that your body naturally is still playing the ball at the arm speed that it's coming at, even though your mind has started to pick that it's a slower ball. So you hold your position a little bit longer. And that's why back of the hand slower balls are so hard to play, even when you pick them, because on top of, and we'll get to the next part of it, on top of what the actual ball does, it's that you have to wait so long in your position, and generally your balance goes. So the problem with most bowlers is that their slow ball, I can't remember what the percentage is, but I think it's about 25 to 35% slower on a back of the hand slower ball, and between 10 and 20% for an off cutter slower ball. But batters are pretty used to that, right? So then what does your slower ball do? Why does one season Harshal Patel, no one can hit him? It's about the revolutions on the ball. The more revolutions you put on the ball, the slower it comes, but also it does something in the air. So generally, it will either drift, which is very rare, but some bowlers can do it. But what it usually does is drop. So even now, if you've got an understanding of what that slower ball is going to do, because of the amount of revolutions that person has got on the slower ball, you're not in the right shape for you to be able to play it. And if you get to the Harshal Patel or Dwayne Bravo level, you might also get off spin. Mustafiza, you actually get the ball to break. So now you've got the fact that the player has to hold their technique longer. You then have the bit where the ball is dropping and then off, sometimes also kicking up, although it's more for the back of the hand slower balls. You now have that it might break. So you've got 3 different things that you need to handle with that ball. You're essentially facing an off spinner at 105, 115, 125 kilometers an hour, 135 in some cases, right? An off spinner or a left arm finger spinner. The third part of it is the deception part. So if you're bowling a cutter and you want to deceive, and all you want to do is take some pace off the ball. As your fingers come in, you'll just roll them a little bit to one side. And if you're really good, you can roll them sort of at the back to one side so it's not obvious, because that's more obvious than that is, right? If you're bowling a knuckleball, if I come in like that, it's very hard for you to tell if my fingers are there or if my fingers are there, right? Especially if I'm holding it correctly, especially if I move it very late. So deception. Every slow ball from every bowler is going to have a different amount of revolutions on it. Some will get a lot of revolutions, but the ball won't do anything. Some will get masses of revolutions and will do an absolute ton. A guy called Clint Mackay had a back of the hand slow ball that everyone could pick, but playing it was really hard because it went up over your eyes, came down, and then when it bounced, it would kick up again. So it was like facing a tennis ball, right? And anyone who's ever tried to slog a tennis ball will tell you that you can hit a couple and eventually hit one straight up in the air, right? So those are the reasons that different slow balls work for different players and how all those things go. And so not everyone is a slow ball specialist, right? There are a lot of bowlers who aren't particularly good at slow balls who will tell you that it isn't their main skill. Some people are really good at hiding them. Some people are really good at bowling them. Some people are really good at what the ball does afterwards. There's so many different variations there. RCB have 2 bowlers who are bad at bowling slow balls. Yeah, but they didn't bowl that many today as well. That's the other thing. So bowling a cutter really shouldn't be that hard for an international player on a wicket that is helping them. It's on the wickets that aren't helping them that these two should have more problems because they don't have the slow ball. Whereas on a pitch like today, you don't necessarily have to be good at bowling slow balls. You just have to bowl them. And if you want to know what I mean there, have a look at them. Mitchell Starc bowled a good over slow balls, even though he's not particularly good at them. Indy says, this match is best proof of why speed in itself is useless. Both Starc and Joseph went for runs. There's a reason why only McGrath has an average of 21 and not Starc. Accuracy and skill eclipse pace. In some cases, and in some cases, having pace works. This was a wicket where being skillful was more important. But there are plenty of wickets where having more pace is more important. But if you look at the greatest bowlers of all time in all the different formats of cricket, generally it is the more skillful bowlers. No, there's no one who doesn't agree with you on that. But if you get 3 or 4 quick wickets and you've suddenly got your number 6 and number 7 and number 8 facing Mitchell Starc, they would much rather face Glenn McGrath than they would Mitchell Starc. That's when the pace comes back in. When you need to bowl bouncers that absolutely terrify people. Glenn McGrath had a very good bouncer for someone his pace. You'd still rather face his one than McGrath, than Stark's, right? But yeah, the greatest bowlers of all time have never been all that fast. And generally, really good fast bowlers generally, look at Pat Cummins. He's probably lost 6 or 7 kilometres and his efficiency in red ball cricket anyway hasn't gone down. Shashvat says, how do you envision member nations approaching the LA 2028 Olympics? It's a really good question because, you know, we've seen before things like the Commonwealth Games where people didn't take it all that seriously. We have seen the first World T20 where India didn't take it that seriously and then won it. And Australia certainly didn't take it seriously. Because it's the Olympics, because it's in America, I do think that the players will take it seriously, but how will the boards fit it in? It's a really, really good question. I haven't talked to anyone yet. What are we? 4 years away. I don't know. I looked at my clock to tell you that, but I did. But we're 4 years away. In the next couple of years, I'm going to start asking directors of cricket and coaches just what their thoughts are. And can you talk us through some of the memorabilia behind you? Yeah, I got Mitali Raj's hat is here. Weirdly, the plant is in front of it now. I've just realised. Why am I so terrible at this? Over here, you've got Sachin Tendulkar's signed shoe, and you've got my hat from Cricket Scotland. What else do I have behind me? I've got the Grey Sporting Almanac there. And I don't know if you can see the stump in the corner. Oh, yeah. The stump in the corner is from the old rec ground in Antigua. I went there and there was a broken stump. And I was like, well, surely Curtly Ambrose broke this. Probably not, because it was in too good a modern condition. Is that all I've got? I know I've got a bunch of little figurines and stuff here. John Wick and Star Wars, and I've got a Predator and a Xenomorph, a couple of Xenomorphs there. What else do I have? Oh my god! I got the Death of a Gentleman in Wes Hall down here, you probably can't see them. They're quite dark. I probably need a light in that section. There's a picture of the MCG that my wife drew. That is an India Today magazine cover that I probably don't need there anymore. MCG stuff. Some of the cameras I made Death of a Gentleman on. I think that's pretty much everything that I can tell. I don't collect a lot of memorabilia, but occasionally I've got a signed Andrew Simons ball on my desk as well. Mensurge says, "Are you upset about the Diddy album cover aging poorly as I am?" So for those who don't know, I had forgotten that I hadn't mentioned this yet. This is a brilliant question. So I once took the photo for a Diddy album cover. It probably should be in the background, but maybe now it's good that it isn't. It's funny. So I've talked about this before, but I got in trouble at the time for saying I wasn't really a P Diddy fan, and Sony or Interscope got really upset because and I was like, oh, okay, I just like Biggie more. I'm allowed to like Biggie, but yeah, they so. And I was supposed to be, a part of my contract, I was supposed to be given a vinyl of that album, and I never was. And I was supposed to be taken to the party, right? The opening party. And I got none of those things. So I was kind of already pissy with P. Diddy before I found out of whatever the hell he's involved with now. It's not going to age particularly well, that fact. But it's still a weird fact that your man, the cricket podcaster, writer, commentator, also once took the photo for the cover of a P. Diddy album, which is called Last Train to Paris, if you want to find it. My wife's on that cover. I really wanted to do a TikTok or a YouTube short about it, but I haven't had a chance yet, but I will get to that very, very soon. But yeah, thank you for reminding me. Of course, Path gives me one, but it isn't there. There we go. How do other sports leagues look at the Hardik trade? How do other sports leagues look at the Hardik trade as normal, as even his biggest fans would say he has made captaincy leagues? Explain that to the people who exclusively watch the IPL. How do other leagues look at the Hardik trade as normal? Well, I mean, most T20 leagues are pretty bad at trading. I think partly it's because we don't have draft capital available to be traded at the moment, and I don't want to shit on the people that run cricket teams, but I don't think the level of understanding how the system is put together so that you can exploit things for trades works at the level that it should at the moment. But yeah, there's been heaps. I mean, Ben Dunk was the MVP, and then 2 years later was traded for a bloke who played 2 games. So there's been so many. I've done so much content about bad trades, so much so that I think it actually has stopped me getting jobs in leagues because of the amount of times I have said, this trade doesn't make any sense. It is a stupid trade. You should not be making this trade. And so I do think there's a big part of that. But yeah, cricket doesn't understand trades, so it's not an IPL thing, although the IPL seems to be making more of them, and they still don't seem to make any sense. So yeah, it's not ideal, but no one in cricket. I don't understand why trades aren't better in cricket. There doesn't need to be a reason why this happens. I've said this before, but there was a trade a couple of years ago which I slammed on our channel, and someone from the team got in touch with me and said, yeah, but we got 200k towards our blah 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 department. I was like, you're owned by billionaires. What the hell? You just lost an asset. You made another team who you will have to compete against to make the finals and then maybe to win the final better. And you got 200k? Spend more Indians spend more than that on getting boutique jeans made for their players. Probably not. Although they probably spend a lot of money on those boutique jeans. Anyway, that's it for me today. Thank you to everyone for coming in. I'll see you all again tomorrow night. But thank you to everyone who put the comments in. Q is in there. Sandeep, Keshuv, I can see him hanging around as well. So thank you to everyone. But certainly big thank you to everyone on these super chats. And we will see you again for another show tomorrow. And remember, go over to cricket8.com and have a look at all the stuff that is over there at the moment. And I never do this, but I'm going to do it today. Big thanks to Nord, because they're really good supporters of our channel. See you then.
Sometimes you just need to take the slips out and bowl defensively. And you need to be just as careful with your computer's defenses as well. And for that, why not use nordvpn.com/Kimber to get a huge discount off your NordVPN plan and 4 additional months for free. It's also completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Sounds like rhyming slang, but it's not. The link is in the show notes. So put in some dot balls and turn them into maidens via nordvpn.com/Kimber. If you make a lot of content like me, you will need help. And that is why we use Minvo.pro, a slicing and dicing tool that uses AI to conjure up great clips from your podcast chats and meetings. If you make content, go to Minvo.pro to cut it.